Hey y'all, my name is Reverend Dr. Katrina Foster. I'm the pastor of Incarnation Lutheran Church, Bridgehampton, and St. Michael's Lutheran Church, Amagansett, and together we are the Hamptons Lutheran Parish, and this is our weekly television show. There's a threefold purpose to our show. First and foremost, we speak with members of the congregations and other everyday neighbors and saints about their faith in Jesus Christ and how that faith has made a difference in their life's journey, and we share that with you. Second, we speak with leaders of other denominations and faith traditions so that we can build bridges across those things that may divide us, which are real or imagined, and so that we can find common ground to address common cause. Third, we speak with leaders from the East End to talk about issues that are affecting our neighbors here on the East End so that we can have an elevated conversation where we neither demoralize one another nor demonize each other, but try to have an honest conversation and consider well what these issues are and how they affect our lives. Before I introduce the topic of the day and the guest of the day, I have a little commentary I want to make about Christmas. We are right now in the season of Advent, where Christians around the world are preparing ourselves to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. There are some who want to get fixated on what they consider assaults or affronts to the holiday of Christmas, to the celebration of the birth of our Savior. And they get fixated on things like saying Merry Christmas versus Happy Holidays. And I want to say this: if we really want to keep Christ in Christmas, then the way to do that is to pick up our cross and follow Jesus. Not to the department store, not to Cyber Monday, but to the places where Jesus went. And where he went was among the poor, the downtrodden, and the imprisoned, the marginalized, the forgotten, and the hated ones. If we want Christ in Christmas, we should go to the places where Jesus went. And if we want to keep Christ in Christmas, the thing we must do is put Christ in our lives first. And that way, every day would be Christmas, which is Emmanuel, God is with us. It's not about leaving it to Sears or to any department store to tell the narrative, the story of God's insistence on coming to us and being with us. It is up to Christians to bear Christ in the world and to be his hands of healing and hope and making whole all that is broken. Today, we will be discussing Occupy Everything as we discuss the Occupy movement. Now, if you have any questions about this show, any comments or suggestions for further shows, please send those comments and suggestions to me, revkatrina@gmail.com, revkatrina@gmail.com. I will read all of your emails, I will respond personally, and I'm grateful to everyone who has already written and made some suggestions. We will be following up on those suggestions very soon. And today on Occupy Everything, we have a member, not a leader, but a member of the Occupy movement, Ty Wenzel, who is our guest on the show today. And Ty, I'm so grateful to you for coming on our show today, and thank you for being here.
Well, I'm so grateful that you asked us to. I'm glad that you changed the wording from leader to spokesperson. It's a big deal for us. So. Well,
there's the contention that the Occupy movement is has no leaders and has no clear demands. Melissa Harris Perry and others have said things like it's actually a leader-full movement.
Absolutely. When we hear about the leadership, we always say everybody's a leader because everybody's voice in a consensus is valuable. And anybody can come in at a facilitation meeting and say, this is a proposal I'm making. It doesn't have to be a congressperson. It could be anybody. Could come up, a 9-year-old could come up and say, I have concerns about my school, and go up there and make his or her proposal to the General Assembly. Therefore, everybody is a leader because we all vote on everybody's issues, and it's not the fastest way of going about things because getting consensus on anything takes forever, but it is the most fair and it is the most transparent because you can always go back to the minutes and see exactly what happened. Right. So it is run it's a very organized movement, that's for sure.
Right. Now, the Occupy movement is a relatively young movement.
Very.
When you look at our country's history and you look at the civil rights movement, which began, I would say in earnest, got traction after the murder of Emmett Till. that was a
Absolutely.
real catalyst that moved it forward.
Yeah.
And it's still ongoing today. We have not reached the end of that movement. The women's movement, which was sort of born out of the civil rights movement after years of pursuing suffrage.
Yeah.
Then you have the gay and lesbian movement. You have all these different movements, and they've taken years to develop. The Occupy movement is 3 months old,
Yeah.
something like that.
It's pretty much an acute, a very acute, what's the word, where you just, a manifestation of the acutely corrupt system that has really cut us down to the point where none of us can say we don't know somebody who isn't foreclosing a home, who isn't unemployed, who isn't without health care. And you know, what I find very offensive is when people say, well, these are handouts. Well, having the right to work is not a handout because we have a monetary system that's been set up for us. So therefore, we need to be able to work in order to eat and shelter ourselves. Healthcare is supposedly a handout. These are not handouts. To the Occupy movement, at least from my perspective, and I'm only speaking for myself really, is that these things are rights. They are rights of every human being. And I work with Amnesty as well, so it's kind of a similar human rights declaration. We're working on a declaration right now, and these points are important. For example, education should not be a privilege. It should be a right. Particularly with such a wealthy country, no child should have to beg, borrow, and steal to go to college. And then they wonder why, you know, we're so behind on education. Our kids are not doing well. Why is that?
One of the things that I preached about last Sunday was incarnational waiting. As Christians, we're in the season of Advent where we are actively waiting. And that the students at UC Davis, I said they were incarnationally waiting. They were putting their bodies in a place where just the very act of physical presence threatened people who were in positions of power. And they, because they were sitting, the police took it upon themselves to use non-lethal weaponry to force them to move, inflicting them with pepper spray, which, despite what Fox News has said, is not merely a food product.
That was absurd.
I know. And so we've seen evicting the Occupy movement from particular public places, public squares, places where the citizenry should be able to be. And the growing chorus has been, it's for health issues. It's that there are, you know, people who are just being bums and hanging out, and, you know, the homeless are getting in there and staying because it's free food. My contention has been when we put our bodies in a particular place, it raises an issue. And so they're raising issues in public places around government and finance. That's why it's Occupy Wall Street. So what do you think will be the effect of these different governments in different parts, government municipalities in different parts of our country, acting in concert to evict the occupiers? What do you think will be the effect on the movement?
Well, what's been amazing is that every single time that they evict an occupation, we grow. Twofold, threefold. I mean, we just keep growing. And the more they pepper spray these kids, the bigger we get. Because what we realized was that we are human beings and we're all connected. And when I see somebody in a university being pepper sprayed in the face, I'm furious. Because I believe in the First Amendment, and I think they have every right to camp. And Thomas Jefferson didn't say free to assemble between these hours, and it didn't include tents. And he said you're free to assemble.
Period.
Period. And therefore, I don't think it's right to impose these convenient laws to get rid of people in such a violent, heinous manner. In fact, we're starting to learn, and this may still be hearsay, but that the Homeland Security is involved. When that kind of intense crackdown happens, it's really beyond municipality. It's so What I heard was that it was everybody has to go before Christmas.
Right.
When something like that happens, you just realize I was in New York on the 17th during the day of the call to action. I was on the Brooklyn Bridge, and I have never seen that many riot cops in my life.
It's a terrifying thing to be surrounded by riot
I'm
cops
from
in that
Turkey,
gear.
and I've seen a revolution or two, and I never saw that. That was intense. It was on every corner. It was walls of riot cops on horses, in cars. And it was well beyond the police department trying to get rid of a park full of people. It was so big, and it really scared me.
Well, it's very interesting to me that, and I lived in the city for 16 years.
Me too.
And it's very interesting to me that my former billionaire mayor, who is beholden to no one because he, took no campaign contributions, is using what has become essentially a military force in many ways, the NYPD.
It's horrible.
And I was a clergy liaison with the NYPD. They're professional for the most part. They are honorable men and women who serve communities with integrity.
They're the 99%. We
They
are
are the
always inviting them in.
They are the
We would love
99%,
that.
and I happen to think that all of the people we call heroes in that way are heroic because they do work that no one else would do for the pay
Absolutely.
that they get.
Oh, gosh.
So, but ordering them to be a paramilitary force in the protection of other billionaires struck me as kind of an obvious point of conflict between the Occupy movement, who's trying to point out how damaging the financial disparities are and how that is insidiously creeping into all facets of our communal life.
Absolutely.
And the billionaire
Sitting on
mayor
his
who's
tower.
dictating, what the military
I will tell you,
will do.
the officers, the blue shirts, are very, very receptive, very kind, extremely respectful. They're always saying, "I'm sorry, I have to do this. I'm sorry, I got to move you." And so I've had very good, personally, have had very good experiences. It's the corporate-owned white shirt police. Wall Street hires a police department for themselves, and they are in the white shirts. They are the ones that were pepper spraying.
Right.
They are the ones that were, corralling everybody onto the Brooklyn Bridge in order to arrest them. If you notice, there's a big difference between white shirts and blue shirts. So, but then it got even beyond that. On the 17th were the riot police. I don't even know where they came from. I didn't even know they existed. But they were there and just did not come anywhere near outnumbering us. But still, their presence was
intimidating,
very militaristic. So it was really depressing to see that.
Years ago, under the Giuliani administration, when Amadou Diallo was killed,
Oh, God, that was awful.
when the verdict came down that the officers were not guilty, myself and other clergy went down to the street where he was killed. And at one point, Giuliani ordered riot police to come. Now, I was there with other pastors and clergy persons, and we were talking to people who were milling about, notably angry, but they weren't being violent. They were doing nothing. And we saw the riot police lining up to charge, and we stood between the police and the people. And
Unbelievable.
and it was all that kept them from attacking. And one of the things that happened, and I want to bring this up with you, was that there were people among the people who started throwing urine-filled bottles at the police, and which nobody appreciated, and really was causing trouble. I've heard people say that, the first instinct should be assume that those people who are causing the problems are actually planted there to cause the problems.
Absolutely.
And to create a condition that gives an excuse
for them
to come in.
Absolutely.
What would you say about that?
Well, I'd say it's a fact, because when you had the bank transfer day,
Yes.
we had the group of people, it's on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it, where they went into, very peacefully went in as customers of Citibank. Hi, I'm here to close my account, and then we're all here, we're all going to be closing our accounts. And then suddenly there was one of them that got really loud, really crazy, like started screaming and started scaring the bank. And they were like, who is this person and where did he come from? And the bank got very scared and called in the police. So the police show up, there's this lunatic screaming his head off.
Right.
And now they're really freaked out because now the bank is full of police. And guess who's arresting one of the women? The guy that was screaming his head off.
So he was an undercover plant.
He was an undercover plant.
Right.
Hired specifically to create a ruckus so that the police would be called. So that's a fact. I mean, I don't know how many of these instances it's true, but I do know it's happening. And it's just such a peaceful movement. I mean, things happen, but it's overall, it's all about passive resistance.
Nonviolent resistance.
Absolutely. And when I hear that violence happens, I'm always suspicious who started it.
Right.
And I honestly, from the people that I have seen, I can't even imagine them starting a brawl with a police officer. Right. What I do know is I personally believe in civil disobedience.
I was arrested for it once.
Yes. Well,
right.
I've been maced, but not arrested. But it's interesting because civil disobedience is a fine line. When you go and hit a police officer, that's not civil disobedience. No. But when you're sitting there, as these students did, to block movement and
draw attention.
It's just really to just draw attention and somehow stop what's happening. That's civil disobedience, and it is arrestable. But to be just the reaction is so intense from the other side right now that I realize that it's working. Occupy Wall Street and all of the Occupiers, we're working. Everybody is afraid. That's why you're getting this intense reaction. Honestly, I don't know where we're going to go with it, but it's growing.
One of the things that I think the Occupy movement has managed to do in a very short period of time is change the questions we're asking.
Oh, God, thank God.
We went from kind of making assumptions that it was perfectly fine to have this amazing disparity between the rich, the shrinking middle class, and the poor. And now I think what the public is beginning to ask, the conversation is beginning to ask the question of why is it that we have gone in about a 30-year period of time from something that looked more like a more equal distribution of wealth and concentration of wealth and power to this concentration of wealth and power in fewer and fewer hands.
There's a million reasons why, but yeah.
So I think the Occupy movement is pointing out some things like, you know, the taxes have been rewritten in such a way that it really does favor a few over the majority. That subsidies, welfare, as it were, is really not something that is taken up by mostly by persons, but by corporations.
Corporate personhood.
And that the John Roberts Court recently declared corporations to be people. And I think since that time we've seen how we have begun to treat people as chattel.
Right, exactly. Well, what's happening is that these actions are going, they're just, used to be nice and subtle. Well, we can handle these changes. We had our iPhones, we had our iPads, we're happy. You know, if
we're sedated.
We're sedated, we're okay. You know, I don't really want to know what they're doing because I'm okay. What's happening is people are losing their jobs. When you can't feed your family, your iPod does not matter. So there's the 1%, what they're doing is not so subtle anymore. It's broad strokes. I don't want to pay taxes. I want subsidies. They complain about welfare, but they're the first ones with their hands out. Secret bailouts we're finding out about today. There
was something about a $7.7 trillion secretive bailout.
Kucinich has been talking about that forever, and there it is. It happened. I demand, personally, an audit of the Fed. When you are allowed to print money out of thin air, it's not backed by gold, by anything, just to make your friends wealthy, it's going to affect everybody because now we have nothing. There's nothing between us.
Right.
There's no middle class. We've shrunk so much. And, you know, everybody's affected, and now the iPads don't matter. Doesn't matter what they throw at us. I mean, I can't even imagine what Christmas is like for a lot of people.
Well, interestingly, the sales have shown that we've increased our spending. We had gone at 2008 as a country. We began actually saving more and doing things like that. What we've done in this country is incentivize debt rather than incentivize saving. If you look at European countries, they incentivize saving. We don't do that, and that's part of what led to the housing bubble. You know, my house is my bank, that sort of thing.
It's terrible. But yeah, you know, if the housing thing is really just another manifestation, but it's not just the housing bubble. It's so much more than that now. I mean, maybe that was where the panic set in, but now we're finding other things.
Like?
Well, all right. Well, the housing bubble was a great way to save, okay? But now we have governments who are colluding with each other. And what we're learning right now about Europe, now we're waiting for the big ball to drop. I don't know if you realize, but the recession we had in 2008 was just the tip of the iceberg. There's rumors about Bank of America is about to come out with their handout again. There are rumors about other big banks that are coming out with, are going to
Well, they just got downgraded.
Oh, I didn't even know
Standard
that.
& Poor's yesterday, if I understand this right, Standard & Poor's downgraded a lot of the major banks because, as Barney Frank said the other day, the Frank Dodd Wall Street reform package said that the government will no longer guarantee the liquidity of these banks. And so Standard & Poor's read that and went, oh my God.
Right.
The taxpayer really isn't going to guarantee this. Now, who knows if that's actually,
well,
if we would allow them to fail.
I could never imagine the American people giving them a bailout again. I didn't want to do it the first time because I think if you behave like that and you just destroy that many lives, they're not even in jail. They got their bonuses and left as if nothing happened.
I know. How many Wall Street occupiers have been in jail, and how many bankers and financial people have been arrested? Right, and nobody from Wall Street has been put in jail.
One of our own was recently arrested at the Brooklyn Bridge Day. Matt was arrested protesting on November 17th. He's from East Hampton. And honestly, it's, you know, these guys are living in their towers, and it's not about jealousy. It's not about the money. It's about the corruption. The corruption is what made us unemployed. It's what got rid of all the jobs. Everyone's too afraid to hire. I mean, I don't even know how or where they got their numbers for this season's Christmas sales. What is it based on? I don't know anyone shopping. What is it based on? I don't get it. Are we just credit carding everything again?
Yes.
Or is it, I don't even believe that.
Yeah, the Cyber Monday stuff just went through the roof again this year.
I don't know anybody doing it. I just wonder who these people are. When the woman came out with the pepper spray at Macy's or whatever that was, I was like, oh my God.
I know.
It's really horrifying, you know, when you're pepper spraying people.
Right.
For, I don't know,
the $2
waffle machine.
Maker. I know.
The waffle maker, right.
We have about 3.5 minutes left. Now, quickly, some people might think, well, why do you have an Occupy Hamptons? Since we are in, many of the places out here are in the top 5, top 10 most expensive places to live. Why would we do that out here?
Well, that's a really good question. And what you have to understand is the Occupy people are locals. We are not vacationers here. We're not here with our, you know, with our kids for 3 months out of the year. We live here. But what we've done in the Hamptons is we've created a situation where our town is not sustainable for the people who live here. We've got stores that are open 3 months out of the year, restaurants that are open 3 months out of the year. So we've got no jobs that exist only a few months out of the year. Then when they're open, a lot of these big name stores, they bring their staff in, or they hire from Russia or Ireland or Jamaica. So we have a lot of these, I don't know if you notice, but every summer you notice all the accents. You realize they're not even hiring from local high schools or anything. Why do you have to fly in somebody from Jamaica to make coffee? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of high school kids looking for summer work. And to me, I mean, that's something that needs to be discussed here because that's something that should be banned. We need work. we need jobs here. Why are they allowed to bring these people in when they're only open 3 months out of the year anyway? So where are we going to go with this? I started a website that is for just local businesses so that I will be able to, it's just a very beginning step, but it's about, I just want the money back in town.
Right. Okay. Now, if somebody wants to contact you as a person in the movement or learn more about the Occupy Hamptons movement, how can they best do that?
Well, one thing is to just go to the website. It's occupythehamptons.org. They can contact me at ty at occupythehamptons.org, or they can come to one of our General Assemblies. It's open
now, the
to
General
everyone.
Assemblies happen when?
They are every Sunday. If you go to the website, you can find out exactly where it is. Every week we've been moving. Usually we're in Sag Harbor. Now we went to East Hampton. And next week is Wainscott at
Bridgehampton.
Oh, Bridgehampton, I'm sorry. Right.
Yes, the occupiers will be at Incarnation Lutheran Church, 1553 Montauk Highway at Hay Ground Road from 2 until 5.
2 to 5, yes.
2 to 5. And it's not, you don't have to be a Lutheran, you don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to be religious. You just have to be a person who is paying attention.
Absolutely.
And wants to.
Everybody is welcome, and it's a very intellectual group of people who want change for our specific community. And we are connecting with other Long Island occupations like Mineola, Patchogue. There's a lot, there's a lot of them.
And I just want to say, people are saying, well, this is about class warfare. And I think it is about class warfare. There has been a war on a particular class of people.
It's not fair.
Right,
it's not a fair war.
It's not fair. So we got 9 seconds. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Reverend Dr. Katrina Foster. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in church or at the community of your choice this Sunday. God bless.
Thank you.